Just out of interest, what is the dream for the business? Have you ever actually mapped this out to almost think about what is the
Yeah,
absolute
I
pinnacle?
do. Yeah, I do. It's interesting. I do, and it kind of changes as it were. And I think it's helpful to, well, again, I think it's helpful to keep your head up to think about where you want to go and what the opportunities to do. So, at the moment, the idea is to my most kind of my current dream, as it were, to have a size where we would be a small consultancy, say 15 people. So, in terms of 10 to 15 people, and where we are working with organisations to make tangible difference to
Hmm.
in terms of making work better. And one of the things that's important to me is around creating opportunities for great work for people as well interested in this space, because I want to not just support other organizations to do it, I want to do it for myself. So
Yeah.
we've got 2 employees at the moment. So we're on a, it's a slow journey. We're hoping to recruit for a couple more posts this year. So we're on the right trajectory to do that. Why 10 to 15 people? Don't know.
Doesn't
I think
matter.
that's my reaction today, and maybe in 5 years' time we can check in and see where I am and how far away I am from
See,
that vision.
what's quite funny. So for me, my plan is to work 4 days a month. I joke with people, this is the plan. So everything I'm trying to do is to build a machine that, yes, you can hit a lot of people via streaming and whatever, but actually where it's kind of just me, maybe one or two other people, but almost that's what I'm trying to build, because that, for me, I know what I'm like, that I would worry too much about paying other people's wages and bills and mortgages and stuff.
Yeah,
That actually, that's not what I want to build. So ironically, although I want to build a big business, not physically big, it would just be scaled and that kind of thing. But it's
yeah,
almost, I think what again is interesting is because you have a great niche, you've got knowledge, you've got expertise, you've actually got a book, which is fantastic. And then almost, do you think through how you do your like strategic promotion? Because I know you're a TEDx speaker. How did you
yeah.
find that?
So I found the TEDx was an
Mm.
amazing opportunity. Really hard, again, as an adventure. It was definitely an adventure for me in terms of the good, bad bits. Really proud that I've done it. The TEDx was really useful as a mechanism to, again, think about how you're expressing your message and the sentiments you want to get across to a specific audience in a broader way than maybe the book was intended. So it's
Mm.
another audience, an opportunity to connect with another audience, and it's a very helpful mechanism for in terms of job crafting. I've got a 10-minute TED talk. I've got a 300-page book, so you
You
can
got the
find anywhere in
options.
between for those different kind of reference
Yeah.
points. So for me, it was useful from that. But it was, again, it was something that I potentially could see wanting to do. It was nothing that I was desperate to do to the business. It was seeking out opportunities and being interested in it in the
Hmm.
same way as the book, rather than saying I need to do this to get to the next level, to unlock this, to unlock this. It's around, I've got lots of these little things that I'd love to do. And I will just try and pounce upon those opportunities when they create. One thing I am, again, good at is around, if I want something to happen, I'm generally pretty good at somehow finding
Doing
out
it.
a way to
Yeah.
make it happen somehow. And not immediately, but I tend to get there um, somehow in some way. So I find it's useful to have these kind of goals or ideas around that I'm hoping to work towards.
That's very cool, because I ask selfishly, just because one of the big things that with version 2, when I launch it and almost the updated, is to actually start to write to and email conference organizers, because I think the more you can visualize the idea of what your dream life is. So we've gone a bit cheesy, but I just think, because we don't often get to talk about this. I would love to be a British Simon Sinek, where you get to speak on big stages and travel the world. I'd love to do that. I still love hands-on, rolling my sleeves up, actually doing stuff, but it's almost, if I just hope that that'll happen, it won't happen. And so one
No.
of the things that I'm hoping to do is start to send out packs to basically Google conference organizers for business strategy related stuff. There's the whole, I gift away more than 50% of all the courses, that kind of thing. And just actually, but it's through the action of knowing what it is that I'm trying to achieve, will I actually, touch some wood, hopefully achieve it. And it's just because you have the book, you have that. And some people, I guess, have the edge, or some people hate public speaking. But it was just, what's interesting is that you have the chatter plan, the opener, to approach almost anyone in the world to say, look, this is me, if you would like to have a conversation. And
Mm.
it's for a business point of view, it's priceless, because it just opens up so many more doors than if you didn't have that, if that makes sense.
Firstly, I've got no doubt that you'll be obviously seeing her on a stage, and in terms of more stages soon. I've got no doubt about that. I think one thing's helpful for me, that has been useful is around actually speaking to conference organizers, speaking to people who organize TEDx's, speaking to publishers. So trying to think about how you can make their life easier. So in terms of I think often we don't do that. We kind of like assume that we know how to get someone's attention or kind of to do this. And actually what I often ask conference organizers or from some of the TEDx kind of people I contacted people again, without thinking I'm going to pitch a TEDx thing. I started to reach out to people and say, I've seen you've organised this TEDx. Can I just have a conversation about how does the recruitment process work? What do you look for from you? And I had those conversations a year and a half ago too. And again, it wasn't like, right, I'm now going to pitch you. It was around saying I need to understand how that works. And similarly,
you were still savvy enough to do it.
It was around getting that proposal, like saying, actually, what does a proposal look like? So to making it easy for other people.
But that in itself is clever, and it's that ingenuity of making stuff happen. I think a lot of people, they just hope it's going to happen, and it's just, I can't express enough, how important it is to write people and say, can I be a guest on the podcast? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? And I think for me, it's almost I'm proud of what I've done, but I know what I'm trying to do. And at that point, but it's the game. And I love checking in with people just because in another 6 months, I have one guy that every year when we set up at the same time, and he's got a spice business. His name's Pete McKeown. They're called Diablo Seasonings. And in November, we have a catch up about how the year went. And I said to him, one of the big things for me, which will be an absolute dream goal, is that I remember when I was earlier on in my career and I was on a flight somewhere, but it was like a businessy trip type thing. And I'd flick through the in-flight magazine, and some of them were business education adverts for MBAs and stuff. And I said to him last November, a big goal for me would be to have my own advert in an in-flight magazine. That for me would be like, but the irony is it's just, I could technically do it now, but I'm not ready. But for me, I don't know about you, I treat this whole thing as a game. I don't, I do take it seriously, but I also don't, if that makes sense. And you've got a certain amount of chips, you allocate them as you can. And
and I think that's with your game. My wording is adventure. It's like in that perspective, in terms of like, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be losses. You don't know, you can't guarantee who's going to win the game or kind of where you're going to get to from your adventure. But as long as you enjoy the game and as long as you enjoy the adventure, then it doesn't matter really. And I think that's I think so important to be able to kind of check in. Actually, why am I doing this, and am I enjoying it? So I think I think it's a great analogy.
I think for me, it's a way to make it less serious.
Yeah.
You could easily frame it in a way that petrifies you to get out of bed in the morning, or what's the worst that happens? And that for me is it's the big thing that I always try and get across, is that, my viewpoint now compared to when I first set up as a consultant was 2 years ago. It was October 19. And since then we've had COVID and stuff. But the point is, it's just keep going, keep learning. And that's almost the fun of it.